too close? Let's see. Hello. Hi, good to see you. You know what? There's a light in the background. Don't worry about that. Hello. How are you? Right off the bat, getting back onto opening a studio series. What's going to push your client away? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. From wherever you are, good time. So right back onto, I tasted in my beard issues. What is going to scare away your clients? One of the things I really like talking about on this channel is the opening a studio series, where I just talk about some of the things that I've learned opening my studio that I've had in this particular location for going on 10 years now. Myself, and with the help of a supportive family and friends around me, I've built this from a basement to a freestanding commercial location, 3,000 square feet where I record, and that is my sole income. Take that for what it's worth. Today we're going to be talking about some things that will scare away your clients. So don't do them. Let's get right into it. Now, right off the bat, when you're first starting this, you're hungry and it's hard to say no to certain projects, and maybe you're desperate. You don't know where that electric bill is going to come from. You don't know how you're going to pay the next bill. So you do get desperate, but the first one is not to be too pushy. It's a hard one. There's definitely a balance between being interested and being pushy. And if a client knows when they're being patronized, so you really have to carefully ride that line. One way to combat this is to understand what you need from your client information-wise. I know we're going to talk about reference tracks, how many songs they want to do they want me to mix it? I get all the information that I need, so I don't need to keep checking in with them. I have all the invoicing taken care of, the deposit's already been paid, so I don't have to seem super needy to this client, which will in turn scare them away. And it's not about not wanting to reach out to them, it's about being organized and being easy to work with. A big one is being disorganized or being disheveled. I know right now I look like a mountain man or a caveman, depending. But if your studio looks bad, smells bad, is disorganized, and there's a fine line here, right? A working building and a building that's being used is always going to be in a constant state of flux. And I feel strange even bringing this one up because I literally had a tour today that I had to explain to somebody. I just had a band leave. It's a little messy, but they loved the space and they could see it for what it is, not for what it is right now. And there's a difference between having turnover and being a little dirty that way, and then having a dirty studio or having a dirty workspace. One of the biggest things that's going to scare away your clients, having a studio desk that has trash on it, cigarette butt. It's okay. I mean, if you smoke, whatever. If you have your cigarette butts on your desk next to empty energy drink cans, beer cans, liquor cans, empty anything, trash, what does that say to a client if your desk is in such disarray with non-productive items? How will their projects come out? Treating each client different. Now that sounds like a weird one, but this has a lot to do with transparency and less to do about making a client feel special, which you absolutely should do. Every client that walks through your door is the most important client, and I mean that in the most genuine way possible. You should genuinely be taking an interest in every client that you're working with. Otherwise, in a creative industry like what we do, it's going to be really, really hard to latch on to the creative aspects of what that artist wants out of their project if you're not fully bought in. That aside, if you're treating everybody differently, if you're giving certain clients different attention, or if you find yourself wanting to give other projects attention, you really need to take a step back and reevaluate. You're only as good as the work you just put out. And if you're not fully invested in what you're doing, it's hard. Now, this is definitely something that's an overarching thing you have to look at, because when you're hungry, and you take the project in front of you and you kind of suck it up. We've all been there. That's a natural part of the process. And if you're hitting those hurdles, honestly, that's a good thing. It's part of the struggle. It's part of the hustle. That's how you cut your teeth and you learn what you're good at. Ooh. I even find myself taking projects that I normally wouldn't take, and I'm finding that I enjoy different genres. 10 years ago, I probably never would have taken a country record, but I love doing country records. Those players have opened my eyes to different things that are possible with instruments that I just didn't know. This is a really stupid one, but If you're the type of engineer that in between takes you are constantly on your phone, put the darn thing down. All it takes is for a handful of people to take pictures during the session or take a video during the session where they see you on your phone, and all of a sudden, whether it's true or not, you become the unattentive engineer. Your client needs to have your undivided attention at all times. And sure, there's situations where I get phone calls and I just really, hey, this is my kid's school. I have to step out for a minute. This is the babysitter. I gotta go. People understand in that situation, but if you're sitting there scrolling on Facebook, TikTok, whatever the kids are doing these days, get off your phone, pay attention to your client. Being unprepared, I made it a habit, and it just seemed to make sense to me when I started this, that I like to have a session ready before anybody walks in the door, and that includes as much of the setup and line checks as I could possibly do before getting anybody in here. So hopefully when they're coming in, they load their stuff in, we do tone checks, and we're good. If we need to change out a mic, we can, but all the problems are solved and we're not spending studio time wasting it on this stuff. And in my mind, that was a way for me to save my gear because I don't have to worry about somebody picking up a mic that they really shouldn't pick up and breaking it. In my mind, I was protecting my things, but what it turned into was things that people got out of my space was that I was prepared and attentive and always ready for them to walk in the door and be ready to go. I love this mug. This one can only really apply if you have interns or people helping you. Be really careful about who you have around sessions, and it can be a lot of different things. People want to be in the studio. The studio is a cool place, and that includes people that the band might bring along, people that you have with you, interns, people shadowing you, kids from the high school down the road who are wanting to see what recording's all about. But be really protective about who comes in there, whether it's from you or for the band, whatever. Any errant comment can really throw off an entire session. Musicians can sometimes be fragile people. We know that to be true. It's honestly what tends to make good art. But all it takes is one weird comment at the wrong time to be misunderstood by the wrong person to throw a whole session out of whack. There's some interns that haven't gotten callbacks for just that reason. And if you are in that position of being an intern, learn when to offer your ideas in a tasteful way and a helpful way that ups the vibe. Nobody likes the smartest person in the room who's trying to be the smartest person in the room. At least in my four walls, the people who don't get callbacks, even if they're amazing players, are the ones who make a bad atmosphere. So if you're trying to be the smartest person in the room, you might be the smartest person in the room one time. Talking shit. Don't talk shit. This one's a weird one in our industry for sure. And I mean, at different points in your career, you can kind of have a loose tongue, and there's things that I'm not proud of saying to certain people, but we should really make it a point to never badmouth another engineer, or to never try to get a job by badmouthing the competition. Ultimately, there's plenty of business to go around, and if you're a jerk, it gets around. You might get that one gig, but people talk, and they will talk about how you talk. If you're creating a positive atmosphere, or the antithesis, if you're creating a terrible atmosphere to work in, that's bred through negativity, sure, there's some creativity that can happen there, but it's not necessarily an atmosphere that, one, you're going to want to work in forever, or two, that your customers are going to want to support for very long. Positivity breeds positivity. If there's one thing I've learned in my career, it's that rising tides raise all ships. And at any point that I've pointed somebody to another engineer because I didn't think I was good, I got just as much work right back. Yeah, it's iced coffee. So try not to talk bad about the other competition, other artists that you've worked with. It is easy to get into the gossip mindset, and musicians can definitely be just as catty as any other industry out there. To the best of your ability, try to rise above it and be an example of humility and confidence that there is plenty of work to go around, and you'll get your fair share. Talking too much. Artists, musicians, humans in general want to be heard. And it seems obvious, as engineers, we should be using our ears, not just when we're sitting behind the desk, but when we're interacting with an artist who's right in front of us. They're going to tell you what they want. If you listen to their instruments, even if they can't really play, they're going to tell you what they want out of their music. Like it or not, it's your job to massage that into kind of the best thing that it can be and present it back to them. with their original vision in mind. So if you're spending too much time talking and teaching and not enough time listening, and there's a healthy balance there for sure, because some clients definitely need to be educated on the process and taught certain things about what it is you do in a recording studio. But if you're spending too much time there and not enough listening and supporting and providing, then you're gonna miss the whole artistic vision of what was supposed to be, and you're gonna impart your own onto it. And then that artist checks out. And it has everything to do with that artist in that moment. Because right now in that room, even though you think you might be right, the artist might not. And you're not gonna know if you don't listen. One thing I will tell you, in the end, if that artist feels like they're being heard, and if that artist is proud of the product that they got, they're gonna tell everyone. And that does way more for you than getting exactly what you wanted out of the project in the first place. Because they're gonna promote it way better than you ever could. Having evangelists out there working for you gets clients in the door. Well guys, if you like this one, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I've also started a Patreon where I'm gonna have some behind the scenes content, some one-on-one coaching if you're down for it. If you're interested, I will put the link in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next one.